Hey everybody, back again. Let's continue with chapter 24. Here he comes, said Lori. Don't be a chicken. Colleen bit her bottom lip. It was after school. The three girls stood across the street and watched Jeff. Maybe we should wait until tomorrow, said Colleen. Hey, Jeff! Lori shouted. No, whispered Colleen. Jeff turned. Lori and Melinda walked toward him. Colleen lagged behind. Hello, Jeff, said Lori. Hi, Jeff, said Melinda. Hello, hi, answered Jeff. Lori laughed. Come on, Colleen, said Melinda. Ask him. Colleen blushed and looked away. Colleen has something she wants to ask you, said Lori. Well, okay, well, stammered Colleen. Quit bothering me, said Jeff very quietly. We're not bothering you, said Lori. Colleen just wants to ask you. Melinda stopped her. Let Colleen ask him, she said. Well, see, said Colleen. Okay. She took a breath. It's my birth. I don't want her asking me anything, Jeff snapped. Colleen turned bright red. And quit saying hello to me, too. We can say hello if we want, said Melinda. It's a free country. I don't want you saying it to me, said Jeff. Don't worry, Colleen exploded. I won't. I will, said Lori. Hello, 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 hello. Shut up, said Jeff. He slammed his book down on the sidewalk. Hello, Jeff, said Lori. Jello, Jeff. She laughed at her mistake. Jello, Jeff, hello, Jello. She kept laughing hysterically. And quit laughing, Jeff shouted. She can laugh, said Colleen. You can't tell her she can't laugh. Hello, 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 said Lori as fast as she could. Shut up, screamed Jeff. You shut up, said Melinda. I'm not afraid of you, Melinda, said Jeff. I'm not afraid of you either, said Melinda. Jeff raised his fists in the air. Melinda did the same. Lori shrieked with anticipation. Okay, hit me, said Jeff. You hit me first, said Melinda. No, you hit me first, said Jeff. Somebody hit somebody, shouted Lori. Jeff tapped Melinda's shoulder with his fist. She slugged him in the stomach. As he bent over, she hit him in the nose. Jeff flailed his arms as he tried to defend himself, but Melinda kept punching him in the neck, in the stomach, then in the eye. Jeff fell to the ground. Melinda jumped on top of him, knees first. She sat on his chest and held his arms flat against the ground. Lori knelt beside them and slapped the ground as she counted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Melinda stood up. Lori held Melinda's arm high in the air. Holding her nose with her other hand, she bellowed, The winner and still champion of the world, Marvelous Melinda! Colleen clapped her hands. Chapter 25. I'm going to be good, thought Bradley. And then when everybody sees how good I am, they'll know I'm not a monster. And Mrs. Ebel will give you a gold star, said Ronnie. Bradley was so excited, he didn't realize he was putting on 2 different colored socks, a blue one and a green one. He tied his shoelaces and then went into the bathroom and looked at himself in the mirror. His black eye was almost gone. It had faded into a light yellowish-brownish color. He hurried out to breakfast. His mother made oatmeal for him. I hate hot cereal, he complained. You'll eat what you're served, said his father. This isn't a restaurant. He frowned. Not because he had to eat oatmeal, but because he realized he never should have said he hated it. That was something bad Bradley would say. Good Bradley liked hot, lumpy cereal. He took a big spoonful, brought it to his mouth, and swallowed the glop. Good, he said, but as he withdrew the spoon from his mouth, his elbow bumped the glass of orange juice. Claudia screamed and jumped up. Oh, Bradley, said his mother. His father glared at him. It was an accident. He started to say it was an accident, but then he remembered that Carly didn't believe in accidents. That puzzled him. He wondered why he would want to spill his orange juice on purpose. He liked orange juice. It was the oatmeal he should have spilled. Are you just going to sit there, or are you going to help your mother clean it up? Asked his father. He picked up his napkin to help, but his mother told him to stay out of her way. You'll only make a bigger mess, she said. Silently, he finished eating. As he headed back to his room, Claudia burst out laughing. What's so funny? He demanded. Look at your socks, she laughed. He looked down at his feet and then back at his sister, the laughing hyena. Thank you, Claudia, he said. I appreciate your sharing that with me. She stopped laughing and stared at him. He walked into his room, sat at the edge of his bed, and took off his sneakers. Wow, said Bartholomew. You were so good. I would have punched her in the face if I was you. He's going to get a gold star today, said Ronnie. Bradley changed his socks, but once again he was so excited thinking about the gold star that he didn't pay attention to what he was doing. He took the green sock off his right foot, he took the blue sock off his left foot. He put the green sock on his left foot, and he put the blue sock on his right foot. Then he put his shoes on and left for school, determined to be good. He walked into the class and took his seat, last row. He sat up straight with his hands folded on top of his desk. He tried to hold back his excitement as he glanced at the chart on the wall next to him. Jeff came in and sat down, last seat, second to last row. Bradley saw him out of the corner of his eye, and then he turned to get a better look. Jeff had a black eye. What are you staring at, Chalkers? Jeff snarled. Hey, you look like twins, exclaimed Sean, the girl who sat in front of Jeff. Turn your ugly face around, Jeff snapped. Oh, shut up, Bradley, said Sean, turning around. Bradley looked at the back of Sean's head. She still thinks I'm a monster, he realized. But once I get my gold star, then she'll know I'm good. For the rest of the morning, he sat at attention with his eyes fixed on Mrs. Ebel. He kept wondering if she had noticed how good he was yet. As he walked outside for recess, he was almost certain there'd be a gold star next to his name when he returned. Curtis and Doug, two of Jeff's friends, came out of Mrs. Sharp's class. What's the big idea? Asked Doug. Hitting Jeff when he's not looking, said Curtis. Huh? Said Bradley. Doug pushed him. He stumbled backwards into Jeff, who pushed him back the other way. Bradley looked around. He was surrounded. Jeff's our friend, said Robbie. Yeah, said Brian. You hit me when I wasn't looking, said Jeff, and my hands were full of groceries. I didn't want to break the eggs. Chicken chalkers, said Dan. There was a space between Andy and Doug. Bradley dashed through it and ran across the playground. Jeff and his friends chased after him. Bradley looked back at them and smashed into a girl standing on one foot. The girl fell onto the hard hopscotch ground and wailed. I'm telling Bradley, said one of her friends. I'm sorry, Bradley said helplessly, and then he continued running. He ran up the concrete steps and entered the school building through the auditorium. From there, he walked quickly to the library. What do you want, Bradley? Asked Mrs. Wilcott, the librarian. Nothing, he muttered as he sat down at one of the tables. He leaned his head against his hands, propped up by his elbows. What if Carla was wrong, he worried. What if I really am a monster? I don't want any trouble from you, Bradley, said Mrs. Wilcott. Chapter 26. We'll get you at lunch, Chalkers, Robbie whispered as Bradley returned to class. You're late, said Mrs. Ebel. He sat at his desk, last seat, last row, and looked at the chart on the wall next to him. Of course there was no gold star next to his name. He had already done 3 things wrong. First, he knocked over a girl and made her cry. Second, he was late getting back to class. And third, and worst of all, his name was Bradley Chalkers. As long as his name was Bradley Chalkers, he'd never get a gold star. They don't give gold stars to monsters. They beat up monsters. He looked around at Jeff, Robbie, Russell, and Brian. He had to concentrate very hard to keep from crying. The worst part wasn't getting beaten up. The worst part was that he knew everyone would love it so much. He imagined the whole school, the boys, the girls, even the teachers, standing by and cheering as Jeff's gang took turns hitting and kicking him. When the bell rang for lunch, he slowly took his paper sack out of his desk. We'll be waiting for you outside, Jeff said to him. Bradley watched him walk out the door. He walked slowly toward the front of the room and then suddenly dashed out the other door and into the hall. Bradley, come back here, yelled Mrs. Ebel. He kept running. So what if he got in trouble? What difference did it make? He pulled on the door to the library. It wouldn't budge. The library was closed during lunch. He tried to think of somewhere else he'd be safe. There he is, said Doug, stepping out of the auditorium. Bradley turned and ran back the way he had come. He rounded a corner and then stopped and made a quick and desperate decision. He opened the door to the girls' bathroom, closed his eyes, and stepped inside. He opened his eyes. Luckily, the room was empty. He held his breath and listened. Nothing could be worse than being beaten up inside a girl's bathroom. They'd probably stick my head in the girl's toilet, he thought. He waited. He didn't hear anything. He looked around. The floor and the bottom half of the walls were covered with green tile. There were 2 white sinks and a paper towel dispenser. There were 3 toilets and 3 separate stalls. Each stall had a door. It looked very much like the boys' bathroom. Girl toilets appeared to be the same as boy toilets. He was disappointed. He couldn't risk going back out into the hall. He leaned against one of the stalls, reached into his brown paper sack, and took out his roast beef sandwich. Someone was opening the door. He quickly put the sandwich back in the bag and hopped into a stall, closing the door behind him. He stood on the toilet so his feet couldn't be seen. He listened. He heard a person walk across the tiled floor and then enter the stall next to him. He covered his mouth with his hands as he heard some very familiar, yet private sounds. At last the toilet flushed and he heard the person zip her pants and walk across to the sink. He heard the sound of running water, and then a paper towel pulled down from the dispenser. Finally, the bathroom door opened and shut. He exhaled, hopped off the toilet, stepped out of the stall, and froze. 2 girls were staring at him. One was the girl who had used the toilet next to him. The other had just entered. He wondered which was which. Then he heard the loudest scream he'd ever heard in his whole life. That answered that question. He darted past them, opened the door, and flew out into the hall. He rounded a corner, came to a door, pounded wildly on it until it opened. "Bradley?" said Carla. "Hello, Carla." He held out his hand. "It's a pleasure to see you today." That's where we'll stop today. Thanks so much. See you next time.